In queues 30 or 40 strong, they head for the drop-off on the ocean side of the lagoon. It seems that they know the way from the overall direction of current and swell, which remains constant at this depth. Lines join together into longer lines. Sometimes 60 lobsters will be marching one behind the other. The migration takes place within a few days each year, and then the whole lagoon floor is covered with parallel marching columns. Travelling in line reduces the drag of the water on an individual by as much as half. But there's another reason why it's better to march in this way. If they are threatened, they can form defensive circles. A triggerfish, one of their main enemies. It wants to attack the vulnerable legs, but it has little chance of getting past the ring of spear-like antennae. But a solitary traveller is in trouble. First, it's disarmed. Then the rest is easy.
Kai, ukiona ni kama uko kwa meza unakuliwa tu piece by piece.
There are others ready to pick flesh from the broken limbs. Within a few minutes, all that is left is an empty shell. When the survivors reach the shelter of the rich reefs that run along the edge of the ocean drop-off, they abandon the caravans and each makes its own way. One by one, they clamber down the slope to even greater depths, where they will be safe from the storms that churn the waters hundreds of feet above. It returns to the place where it last left its chick in the hope that it might still be close by. But chicks tend to wander, so the adult has to call to it. The chick responds, and they slowly home in on one another. The plaintive entreaties of the chick stimulates the adult to regurgitate a mouthful of fish. With the return of one parent, the other is free to go to sea to feed for itself. Aware of the leopard seal's presence, the penguins press together at the ice edge, unwilling to be the first to risk diving in. Occasionally, the seal comes out onto the ice and attempts to grab one. But its most successful strategy by far is to lie in wait. a corner of ice. The emperors gained confidence.
Nakam.
Table manners go out of the window for the sea eagle. When the big sea mammals hunt for herring and other fish, there are plenty of leftovers, and that's just what the birds have had their eyes on. The eagles observe the feast from a distance, while the herring gulls dive straight into the action to fight for every last fish left by the whales. The eagle keeps an eye on the situation and holds back, for now. Hungry seagulls are busy with their own kind and overlook some scraps. Time and again, the whales rise up to the surface and spin off new food remnants along with them. Finally, the moment has also come for the sea eagle. In the end, the endless circling and waiting has paid off. Half a kilo of fish per day is enough for an adult eagle. So, does the majestic bird of prey turn out to be more of a bargain hunter than a dangerous predator? Or is this a special trick of the sea eagle off the Scandinavian coast? The frothy shoreline of the North Atlantic is not the only habitat populated by sea eagles. Quiet and tranquil lakes can also be eagle territories, just like here in the northeast of Germany. The lake is stark and silent, it seems, but there are still parallels with the stormy Arctic waters. As with the Atlantic, animals gather here in large swarms that the eagles love to eat. And as always, when an abundant source of food is found, all kinds of different predators make their way to get their own share. Very slowly, the eagle moves closer to the waves. Ducks, swans and coots huddle together in the last open water holes. The more the lake freezes over, the tighter the space becomes for the aquatic birds. They then literally become trapped. There is not much left for them to eat here. Nevertheless, the aquatic birds magically gravitate from the surrounding area towards the last ice-free place in the lake. Hundreds of paddlefuls keep the water moving and prevent it from freezing over completely. And what's more, the birds feel safer in a community than being alone. Just like with the herring in the North Atlantic, the swarm protects the individuals by confusing predators. In contrast to their fellow birds in the far north, however, the eagles here have to do the attacking themselves. The adult bird with the white tail feathers is an experienced hunter. Still, it is difficult for it to catch an aquatic bird. It even briefly takes flight away from the angry whooper swan. The young eagle wastes more energy. He makes a swoop at the fleeing aquatic birds much more often than his parents do. Dozens of times the eagles leave from the shore, circle over the waterhole and wait for an opportune moment. Time and again, the eagles let the targeted prey slip out of their sight at the last minute amidst all of the movement. Once it has landed, the eagle no longer spreads fear. The young eagle has managed it after all. He has seized a loon which came to this lake from the far north to spend the winter here. In this season, love often comes before scavenging for the raven. Just like us humans, ravens like to live in a monogamous relationship. A pair will typically create its bond long before the breeding season, using gestures and chatter. Of course, the ravens want their share of the loot sooner or later, but the couple has time. And anyway, they're busy with more important things. The beak is its knife and fork. The sea eagle only uses its deadly fangs to hold the prey steady. The ravens have gained strength and an appetite. In the end, they provide a little assistance to make sure the eagle doesn't take too much time over its meal. The sea eagle is an XL-sized bird of prey. There is also a smaller size. The buzzard is not choosy when it's cold and icy. When he sees the leftovers, his beak starts to water. The buzzard waits patiently until the big eagle is full and moves away. Then it's the buzzard's turn. Their biggest competition is each other. Many buzzards arrive quickly at one food source, and nobody is ready to give in to let the others have these precious calories. Is continually fine-tuned. The strongest buzzard tries to defend his place. the birds know each other and spend the whole winter together with other buzzards in a loose group on a lake shore where there is the most nourishment. A lighter coloured buzzard appears and wants to assert himself. There is hardly another bird of prey that varies so much in its colouring as the buzzard. The colour of its feathers has no influence on the bird's position in the hierarchy. One of the two will soon get to fill its stomach, but the weaker one is driven away. The sea eagles look on. Finally, the conditions are right. Buzzards do in fact feed mostly on other birds, but especially in the winter time, the eagle's loot left lying around is most welcome. In order to be able to hold their own, the animals target certain food sources. The red deer diversifies in winter when it can no longer find foliage or grass in the forest by the lake. It nibbles at bark and buds, a never-ending food source. The goldfinch, which in contrast to most songbirds does not migrate south in autumn but rather spends the cold seasons in Central Europe, has his special nutritional needs. He gathers plant seeds from various prickly fruits with his strong and pointy beak. That's how he gets his other name, thistlefinch. An attractive songbird that feeds on weed seeds. That's why animals such as the goldfinch have always been so popular. Others, on the other hand, have to deal with a bad image and prejudice against them. Shortly after the snow has melted, the liverwort is blooming. It's the first sign of spring. The cries of the sea eagle used to be a common sound, until this distinctive sound disappeared almost completely from Central Europe some 100 years ago. Sea eagles were persecuted mercilessly throughout Europe. There were often bounties. Thousands of eagles were shot, especially during the 19th century. Even in the sparsely populated northeast of Germany, which is rich in forests and waters, the total population sank to just a few animals. By the 1980s, the sea eagle had become almost extinct. But just like the mythical phoenix, which was burned and then resurrected from its ashes, the sea eagle would also experience a surprising comeback. In the 20th century, nature conservation developed and the hunting of eagles was banned. Now the birds of prey have increased again, but more slowly than expected. Why is that? To this day, countless sea eagles still fall victim to hunting, if only indirectly. Lead in gun ammunition is a devilish poison for eagles. Lead-free ammunition for hunting rifles has been around for a while. Nevertheless, lead ammunition continues to be sold and used. If wild game is shot with lead, ammunition remains in the forest and constitutes a mortal threat to the eagles. The bullets burst into countless tiny lead particles upon impact. We humans rarely notice it, but in eagles, even the smallest amounts of lead cause nerve damage and blindness, a death sentence for these birds of prey. Dead animals and the offal left behind after the hunt are a coveted source of food for sea eagles. Ravens love carcasses as well. They come and go, and seemingly remain unharmed by the lead. But several dozen sea eagles have to die each year just because some hunters are not ready to switch to lead-free ammunition. Now the ravens have the deer to themselves. Although there's enough for everyone, arguments break out again and again. More than 700 sea eagle territories in Germany are currently inhabited. Biologists calculate